6:30 p.m. Eastern. Shelby's World Live taking off. Questions will be answered cause the queen get it off. Unity is for the black and brown community. Conversation without scrutiny. Hey, we speak from a place of power, no coward. We just making sure the truth isn't overpowered. Black goddess, black queen, no in between. Radio podcast to the big screen. Her smile is everything, can light up a room. She say what she means, that's why we're in tune. Grown woman handles her biz like it is. Discipline, a role model for the kids. Nothing was given, everything she earned. She sat back and learned, and now it's her turn. So stop on by, comment, subscribe. Each and every Wednesday, SW Live.
Shelby's World Podcast. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode. I feel like my screen is moving like slowish a little. I don't like that. Okay. I'll continue though, because I can't do about it right now. Huh. It blanked out on me. Okay, let me see what's going on. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Let me look at my settings real quick. What is happening? Huh. I'm a little bothered by this. Y'all just bear with me and just, hang on there, hang in. I can't, since we live, I can't really do too much. You know what I'm saying? If it was something I was editing, it'll be cool. But I'm live, so I'm gonna keep going. Welcome to a brand new episode of SW Live. We are here again in the building, in the virtual studio. We got my boy B, my boy Mick, my boy B Mick. We got him in the back. He's gonna come on and we're gonna do the quote. We're gonna jump into the show because we have a continuation of our Black Men in Emotion show. And he always brings the good juice, and I gotta bring Mick back every time. So welcome to the show, Mickens.
What up, y'all?
Give him a round of applause.
What's going on, family? Okay. Just chilling, man. Just chilling. Happy to be here, man. Technical difficulties, they take place always, but you got to go with the flow. You feel me?
That's right. I don't know what's going on. I probably should have. This wasn't happening in the beginning when I was setting it up. So I don't know. Maybe it's just in its own little world, but I'm hoping that it shape up, because I don't want to have to redo this. I want this show to go on. So Mick, we're gonna talk about Black men and emotions again today. We're gonna dig a little deeper into it because we're gonna start with childhood. We're gonna take a few things back and kind of and talk about it in that type of depthness, and also lean into the things that the Black men and emotions, or lack of emotions, can help to screw up their lives. You know what I'm saying? The things that it does, or the things that it leads to because of it. Because you're trying to hide emotions or not try to deal with it. What are you using to cope? What are you doing to be able to continue, even though you know for a fact that you need to get a little bit of, help, talking to somebody, stuff like that. So we're going to get into that today, but before we do, let's jump into our quote of the day. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another.
That's a good one.
What you got to say about that, Mick?
Yeah, man. I mean, we at times we kind of take all of our problems, all of our issues, and kind of lump them up and try to find a solution. But shit, really, I think we should be able to find a way to compartmentalize them, and take one problem as it comes, and try to be solution oriented and approaching it. Trying not to lash out, but trying to more deal with what you can control, and then let everything else kind of work itself out. So that quote resonates.
That's right. That's absolutely correct. You the one thought at a time process, and I just was talking to you about this last night actually. I only allow when I feel the thought, what the thought about to be and how it's about to affect me. I'm gonna stop it before I even allow it to enter the let me think about it now, because it went from a thought to now I'm thinking about it. So before I
Hmm.
get to that part, I gotta, and we do have to be more in control of how we allow things into our brain that we're processing. We have to be able to say, filter it out. Like, you know what I'm saying? If this is not something you want to deal with, if this is something that you know is going to, because it might have like some connection to you and make you think about something that you've been through. So now you want to automatically help, automatically do it, automatically this, but taking you back into a world of trauma may not be the easiest thing for you either. But you're willing to take that risk and put yourself into it just because you want to help. And the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. So before I allow it to come in and frustrate and negatize me and do all those things that it's going like, ugh, I'm just not going to allow it in.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when it comes to negative thought.
So
You know.
so this quote was selected because we're talking about black men and their emotions, and black men don't think that they're stressed out. They're just
Well,
going.
we know it's stress, but we feel like it's part of the process of just being a man. So a lot of times we deal with it, we adapt, and we keep it moving. You know.
And then that leads to other issues because um it ends up making you more it keeps you less emotional about what it is. Now you just like, oh, I know this was gonna happen. Now you just like numb to it. This is just what
Yeah.
it is. Accepting. And
Well,
that ends up creating other issues.
well, energy, whether good or bad, positive or negative, it got to be transferred. And there's only so much of the negative energy
Right.
that we can consume and hold in without it lashing out in some forms. Now, some forms can be positive. Some forms for a lot of black men tend to be on the negative side because we don't know how to really um, find a way on a more positive aspect to transfer that energy. Um, Especially when you're a single black man and you got a lot going on now. It could be different in different situations, but basically it's just finding a way to find a um, positive way to just kind of channel that energy, man. Because we definitely deal with stress. On an everyday basis, just being black men. But not only that, let alone letting you have responsibilities like kids, that you're responsible
Right.
for and you care about their well being. That brings added stress on a daily basis.
That's very true, B. And then, a lot of that, and the only reason why I said that black men don't feel like they're stressed is because your first line to that, answer that for me. They don't. It doesn't. It's not. They're not gonna look at it as a stress because it's something that they must do. They feel like this is a part of the process. So And in with that being said, when we're starting to feel that there are other mechanisms to be able to deal with things outside of just allowing it to build up and now to control us to the point where now we don't feel because we can't get to that point. We can't. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for the person. It's not healthy. And when I say we can't, doesn't mean that we already haven't done it. You know what I'm saying? It's just we
Mhm.
can't keep allowing it to happen. But it the emotionalist way of reality and dealing with things and not um just giving yourself time to exalt it and exhale, it can build up. And when that build up happens, now you may end up either being a person who lashes out or a person that uses things to help them cope or a person that now thinks that this is just the way it is nothing out there for me. And we have ways, we have things, we have opportunities to be able to say that this is how I need to learn how to release. And that's what we're going to talk about because I feel like regardless of if we know that we're so busy, we know that life gonna happen, we know that life gonna life, that doesn't mean that we were put here to be vessels of making ourselves numb.
True.
That's it doesn't mean that. So we still have to find other ways to be able to deal,
Express
cope.
that. Yeah.
Exactly, because that and how because how you express yourself and how you deal with certain things is how you dealing with the people you love, how you dealing with your job, how you dealing with everyday life. So
Yeah.
again, the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. So be mindful of what you allow in. Be mindful of how you allow it to come in. But and it don't make you less human by not trying to feel everyone else's issues. It makes you more human by knowing that you're trying to protect your own. So it don't look at it as selfish, like I'm being selfish, because sometimes you do have to be that way for
I
yourself. You
mean,
do have to kind of like
a lot of
go
times you
ahead,
have to
Z.
be like that. A lot of times you got to be like that. I mean, and number one rule of like universal law is self-preservation. So at times, especially for those that are more empathic and always want to help people, you have to learn to be able to set boundaries and be able to have a level of selfishness just for your survival sake. You know what I'm saying? On one survival sake. So
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, how it all starts, how you were raised can either help you better deal with your emotions or it can make you shelter them in place. Stats consistently show how your upbringings and where you were raised can bring out many emotional traumas, and which become normalized without in any types of intervention. The effects of childhood trauma can have lasting impacts on Black men's day to day mental health and overall well being. Addressing those experiences with empathy and actionable solutions is crucial for fostering healthy healing and growing amongst the Black men in our community. Um, for one, B, how do you feel about that? How do you feel that do you feel well, let me ask it differently. Do you feel that childhood trauma or childhood issues has plays a part in you guys' emotions?
I definitely think it can play, unfortunately, a very important part. How you were brought up, what you saw, what you dealt with, what you had to overcome can sharpen you. It can make you rough around the edges. It can callous you um, with your emotions or in regards to how you are presented in the world or, whether you're heartless or not. I think the things that you had to adapt to, I think some of the things that you might have been taught, whether innately or just behavior from the people around you, your surroundings, I think can definitely um, affect with how you cope with your emotions. You know, um, that's how I feel in regards to that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because which how you see and how you see people dealing with their emotions is going
Yeah.
to be a signifier on how you're gonna probably deal with yours as well. Um, and I'm not the biggest person that believes that just because a person is raised by a single parent that they tend to lean more toward the regions of that parent because I don't always believe that because I also believe that some parents are going to put people in the child's life, especially if they're missing out on an adult male in the house or an adult female in the house. Like I think they make sure that they do have the people around them to at least help them in those areas. It's not just like they completely lacking. Now I can say that for example wise, but it doesn't always mean that it's happening. You know what I'm saying? I do believe that we
Mhm.
do have situations where you could be raised by a single mom, a young man, and he picks up the ways of how his mother deals with her emotions. I believe that if a young girl is raised by her single father, she could pick up on ways of how her father deals with his emotions. So all that will take a toll on it. But I think that we all interpret things in our own ways, in our own the way we see it. So it can be shown to us in a way that was meant to mean one thing, but we interpret it another way. So that can mean how you were disciplined, what you were exposed to, um, what you how you lived, the things that you were raised on, beliefs, values, morals, all those things. All those things will play a part in how you take it in, how you accept it when it's
Yeah.
being taught. So,
And
I,
go ahead. I was going
no, no, go ahead.
add on. Um, I believe that it is important for you as a youth or youth in general to be able to have some type of good structure, good balance. Now, a lot of times, you do have families that are split, and the mother is taking care of the kids,
Children, the mother.
or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the children, or the father has majority custody of the kids. But I think you need to be able to have some type of well balance um, in regards to that because um, when it comes to a young lady, I personally feel that it's important for her to get structure and knowledge from her mother, but I also feel like it's very important for her to know how to be loved properly by her father,
Mm-hmm.
preferably.
Mm-hmm.
And if it happens to be um, a stepfather, he loves and respects the kids and loves and respects the mother enough to show her the rights and wrongs, as well as a male. I think that, you know, yes, it's a level of nurturing that a mother should show her son, how to be compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
how um, a woman should be treated. But I do believe that every male should be able to have either that father figure or that grandfather or that
Mm-hmm.
mentor or somebody that can show them a level of discipline. Um, Let them understand that everything will not always be easy, but also show them how to properly um, recognize the emotions that may be feeling, and also show them ways to channel that. Um,
It will. Yes.
because
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
we get
Yes.
upset. We definitely get upset. Um, and being someone who, had their mother and father, but sometimes the father wasn't always present in the home, I think that that's definitely necessary to have that good balance. Now
Correct.
ultimately, one person is going to make the decision that they choose to make within their life, but I think, especially now, I think it's important to definitely have that because you can see. I know with me dealing with mentoring young men, I definitely could see some of the kids that lack the structure, you know,
Hmm.
and lack certain discipline. And I see that some of the kids, when their father is active, whether they're with the mother or father, but they're, definitely active, um, show or hold that young man accountable, when he may be acting out of pocket. Granted, that's what a coach is here to do or a mentor is here to do. But, when you have your father in your life, ultimately, he sets those rules and shows you how to move accordingly. And sometimes we don't
Right.
always get that. Sometimes it's our uncle. Sometimes it's a older cousin. It's sometimes, when I say that, I mean that male and female, and they may not always be giving you the right knowledge. And sometimes, even with that, it could be society as itself teach you the ways of the world. You having to learn through,
Exactly.
a lot of, life lessons and tribulations. So,
That makes a lot of sense, and that kind of leads into a lot of the ways of how you maneuver when you get older, by who showed you those things and who gave you those lessons and who taught you those things. Because what you take from it is going to be exactly how you move until you teach yourself differently. So yes, true indeed. I definitely feel the exact same way, especially about it, with everything you said, because I feel like a man is supposed to do things that a man can do, because we can't. There are side conversations that men and boys have about life that a woman is not going to have with that boy, point blank
right,
period, because she don't know what to say about that. Same thing with the opposite way, a mother and a daughter. There are conversations that need to be had that the father is not going to be privy to even giving to his daughter, because that's not something he'll go through. So
right,
it's just things that have to be passed down that are going to actually help them move maneuver in their lives, because what you expose a kid to, and especially our young black men, because this is who this is about. um while we're talking about this, we're talking about this because things that we in general go through can either numb us from something emotional or dealing with emotions. That's a human standard. But a black man, the reason why it's different for a black man is because, yes, there are shared cultural factors that play a huge role in helping us, like, define um the resilience and what it is that we should be doing as black people. But we don't, the family connections that like black people have, the values, the expressions, through spirituality and our music, through different things that help teach us how to deal with our stress, because in our things that are going on in our life and our emotions, that comes in many, many forms and facets. It doesn't just come with how you're raised and all of those things, but it does come with what you were raised on, what you saw, what you were raised in, your demographics, your being raised in the hood definitely can have a different outcome on a person that's not raised in the hood. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So because things that you see out there, we saw different shit in the hood. You know what I'm saying? That's just that they
right,
might not see out there in Kalar somewhere. So it was just different. So our cultural upbringing, the way we were raised, all of that plays a health in how we dealt with our emotions. Can you yourself say that your upbringing could have either led you to having some type of thing, traumas that you had to deal with? Did it teach you how to deal with your emotions? Um, how to compartmentalize them, what to do with them once you start realizing that this is happening, how to put them on display. Like, can you say there are times in your upbringing that you were having to deal with your emotions in your family? Give us an example, if there is, of a time where your father or your mother had to help you channel something that you were dealing with, emotion wise.
Well, um, so I could think of a lot of instances, but if I can kind of pick one, um, I guess uh, let me see. Um,
And I don't want to get off of this and come back to it because I know you got a good one, B. So I want you to I want you to choose it. Like, go on, pick it out the air of the ones you see and just select it and say it.
so it was well, so me coming up, definitely came up with a strong upbringing. Um, Very strong-willed people, strong-minded people. Um, Not really wanted to complain. That's kind of how we would talk really on both sides of our family. Um, but I could think of and I think a lot of families got torn apart between the '80s, the mid '80s and the '90s for various reasons and systems outside of our control. Some of the stuff that, of course, we had to take accountability with and own up to, but a lot of things were out of our circumstances, and through that, a lot of families got torn apart. Um, and you know, my family, for my immediate family, that I wasn't uh, different from a lot of Black families. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, I was able to have a relationship with my father, but within that, of course, a lot of mistakes and things took place, and a lot of things took place that, as a young man, I just didn't understand, and through that, um, a lot of anger was created on the inside from that, just because of me being a young man and having so much love and esteem for my mother, but having also so much love and respect for my father, that when certain situations took place, especially when they had their divorce and their split, it created a lot of frustration and anger. And through that time, it was a lot of times where it was just uh, my mother and my sister and I um, just trying to figure things out. So with that, and my father not being, present at the time, just dealing as I grew older as a man, just realizing, just a man just trying to, find a solution and figure things out. But
Mhm.
on the flip end, you only see what you going through, and you only
Mhm.
see, the hard work that your mother is putting in. But I can remember a time that after I graduated, it was a period of time where, my father and I, we were definitely not seeing eye to eye, and I grew a lot of anger and resentment with how, you know, um, how I guess from a certain part of my life, it was just my sister, my mother, and I trying to figure it out. But then it was another certain part of my life where as a young man, I had to figure life out and figure this world out. And that created a lot of frustration within me because it's like, you know, um, though you had your flaws or your imperfections that you're dealing with, it was a moment in time where, what I'm saying, a lot of wisdom and game wasn't transferred over, and a lot of things I had to kind of figure out on my own. So, that created a lot of frustration. You know, and ultimately, because I wouldn't necessarily talk about it with anybody, and I kind of just like suppress it in, I
Mm-hmm.
would find myself at times when certain things weren't falling into place or certain things weren't going my way, actually like lashing out on the people that I, truly had like a lot of admiration and love for, and a lot of people that were actually rooting for me versus really lashing it out towards people who didn't mean me no good. But not only that, being able to have honest dialogue with the person who I thought created that frustration and really get understanding why and to kind of see the other side of the perspective. Because I already saw one side of the perspective living in a household with a mother that, what I'm saying, um, is working hard to have something for her kids, but she's working extremely hard, harder than necessary. You know what I'm saying? When you think about some of the sacrifices that you put in to have certain things in your life. And of course, it does come with hard work, but I believe when you have someone, you know what I'm saying, that you had kids with, whether y'all together or not, you all do try to find a level of understanding so that, you know, you can figure shit out. Maybe I had a wrong approach about it, but ultimately, I think you try to figure shit out for what's best for the kids.
Right.
Um, and so, that created a lot of frustration over the years. And just not really just identifying what that was and having a conversation. It got to a point where my father and I did have that conversation. I did get to see that side of his perspective and really what he was going through and really what he, you know, was enduring on the other side. And just really his mindset about it, which gave me kind of a lot of understanding because as a young man growing up, trying to figure it out, I have made a lot of mistakes. And in those mistakes, it wasn't always something where I was proud of, but it is one of those things that, is part of your, what I'm saying, your story, part of the process, and you may not be proud of it, but shit, you can't resent it. So yeah, that's just one small example, you know, that I can recall. Just not
So
knowing.
now, thank you,
Uh-huh.
thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So now when you have your frustrations and things that you deal with, are you more prone to channel your emotions? I mean, channel how you deal with it and be more in control of your emotions now.
Well, for one, I've always tried to be in control of my emotions. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, one, I'm a man that's sane and intelligent. I understand that there's always consequences to your actions, right? So
Right.
always being in control of your emotions is paramount. You know what I'm saying? So, but we imperfect people, shit, and
Correct.
sometimes you do have outbursts. Sometimes you do say things that you don't mean. Sometimes, you are getting mad at the wrong people for the wrong things. And nobody's
Right.
perfect, but as I've grown older, especially with things that I've created for myself, I've just understood, you know, that it's okay to be frustrated, but make sure you understand what you're frustrated about, uh, and make sure you understand, you know, to take accountability in
Correct.
whatever it is that you upset about. You know what I'm saying? Instead of coming and pointing the finger or saying it's somebody else's fault, you know what I'm saying? Uh, just kind of recognizing that and seeing things on the other side of the chessboard. You know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with your problems, see how you could have prevented that. If it's something that's dealing with an issue that you could have, prevented, whether that's a breakup, whether that's a bill, whether that's, uh, something dealing with at work. I think taking self accountability, I think finding a way to channel that anger because it's all right to be frustrated. You know what I'm saying? It's all right to recognize what you mad about. But I think during these times right here, it's not necessarily all right to be lashing out on people. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people ain't playing out here, and they not playing with
They're
their
not.
self preservation. So you got to watch how you move out here. So you know.
So, as a black man, B, do you think
Mhm.
that being subject to racism, discrimination, and inequity can significantly affect a person's um day to day?
Yes, especially if you understand, and I guess I don't mean, uh, have knowledge of self, have knowledge of the systems and what's going on. Then yeah, you understand the systems and the pressures that are around you and that's been placed um, in this country that have you understanding that people do not want you to get to your fullest potential. People do not want you to reach past a certain level or a certain ceiling. Um, and a lot of times it's frustrating. Um, Knowing that you can go certain places and people look at you more of a threat than to see you as um, an asset or as somebody that isn't a threat is very frustrating. Um, Knowing that someone may not want you on this earth because you are,
That's
you
crazy too.
know what I'm saying, because you're a black man is very frustrating. You know,
Yes, yes.
um, and just as a black man wanting to achieve the highest level that one person can achieve, you know, and just dealing with how to navigate through life's, maze to get to the top can be frustrating, because shit, the biggest thing is, we live in a microwave society, so we want it now,
Right, right,
and
right.
a black man has already, especially a black man that has been that has, been raised or lived in the inner city, a black man want it now because he's already dealt with a lot of
The
ups and
work.
downs. So
Mhm.
we can be extremely impatient, you know. And I think hell yeah, that brings on a lot of emotions that, you know, can cause you to lash out and, cause you, what I'm saying, to feel a
But
certain
that's
type of way.
But don't that frustration isn't like because you doing what you're doing every day. You know what I'm saying? So that frustration isn't like something that's gonna happen every day. A button has to finally pop for you to actually like lash out and expose that you fucked up mentally about this BS, and I don't like what's going on and I'm tired of it. I'm snapping now. It gets to a point for that to happen. Um, because we're not just angry people. We're not just lashing out. You know what I'm saying? We do
Mhm.
it. It's based on something that's genuinely happening to us that's affecting us. Um, and like you said, the racism, the discrimination, it's a day to day program. It's a
Yeah.
day to day program. So, um, so one of the biggest stigmas in childhood trauma is that um black men feel like they are rarely given safe spaces to feel vulnerable, or not, not per se the word vulnerability, because y'all don't really use the word vulnerable with that because it starts to sound a certain way. But um the the effort to be able to be free with your emotions and have an emotional intelligence. Because as you said earlier, we do have to channel that energy. Let me get this off the screen because it's covering your face. We do have to channel that energy. So, um, when we're talking about dealing with things that have affected us, because like in relationships, we know that black women tend to, however they saw their moms and stuff deal with certain things in relationships, that's kind of how they tend to move. Or the things that they didn't see, they move toward whatever it is that they feel they should do based on what they weren't taught. So, as that being somewhat the same case when it comes to black men, when you are moving into your relationships and what you have dealt with and saw as you were raised on how to deal with in your relationships, the those are the patterns that I'm talking about when it comes to the trauma from your youth. Because when you go into relationships, you're coming into it based on either experience, viewership of what you saw, um, what you heard, what you were around. You're not coming in as an experienced person. You're coming in as a toddler into a game where grown people play.
Hmm.
And we coming into a lot of those spaces without knowing how to channel our emotions. So you got young people fighting. You got young people calling each other out their names. They're disrespectful to each other. These are things that we even dealt with in our time when we were 20, 21, 22. Sitting up there, you going through a lot of shit. People, it was an abusive relationships, all kinds of stuff. And
Right.
it's based on what we either saw, didn't see, what wasn't told to do or how to do it. And we take that trauma into our lives getting older. And that's what I'm saying when I speak about our black men dealing with that trauma, because women have always been shown that they can go talk about it. Y'all can come talk about it. Y'all can come talk about it. Y'all got somebody to talk to. Somebody here to listen. Somebody there for you. Sisterhood, sisterhood, sisterhood. It was always ingrained in us that we had people. Black men were told black men don't cry. Black men don't worry. Black men don't. And y'all have tucked all that shit in because you've been told that it makes you less of a man. It don't make you this. It don't make you that. You got to handle it this way. You got to just take so much. You got to be a goddamn turtle with a hard shell because they're going to step on your back and it's going to keep going. You got to be strong.
Right.
That's what y'all raised on. So, with the stigmas that are surrounding that, how do you build emotional intelligence, B?
Very true. We have been um, raised up to be more callous when it comes to our emotions, whether that's um, what we've been through and we choose not to discuss. And from there, it creates trauma, it creates uh, behavior patterns, it creates certain emotions, certain anger, to where you go on through life and you really kind of just suppressing it, and from that, through that madness, you're hurting a lot of people because of certain things that you've been through in your life, certain things that you were raised up, uh, certain ways that you were raised up. Uh, but ultimately, I think it gets to a point to where some of the shit can be overwhelming. When you see a lot of black men dealing with a lot of health complications, especially in the past, and even right now, like when you talk about heart disease, when you talk about black men uh, being a certain race that doesn't live long because they deal with prostate cancer, they deal with colon cancer,
Hmm.
they deal with high blood pressure, they deal with diabetes. I think, a lot of that does come with how we live and how we feel about ourselves. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Um, Especially when you come, and then when you talk about like heart disease, or when you talk about blood pressure, it is taking on a lot of stress, and holding it in until you can't hold it in, and then you channeling it, and you yelling and you cussing, and you
Mhm.
know, mixed with you whatever desires that black men choose to do outside of work or whatever, whether that's drinking, whether that's choosing a certain type of drug, whether that's uh, working out. I think the older you get, the more you realize that some of the things that you want, you're gonna have to be able to express it. You know, for a black man that might have been promiscuous and had a lot of women but want to settle down, like you're gonna have to recognize, some of your traumas. Why are you feeling like that? And you're gonna have to be honest with yourself and whomever you're dealing with, especially if you find someone serious, or even if you dating. Like at some point you're gonna have to sit down somewhere. And sometimes it may take
Sit down
more,
somewhere.
yeah. Like for real. Like and recognize this, because if you recognizing some of the shit that you deal with and some of the shit that you bring to the table, then sometimes it's best to just sit down and get yourself together. A lot of men that get so frustrated and want to lash out or want to be abusive. Maybe that's some of the stuff they saw, but they may not necessarily want to be like that, but they can't control their anger. Maybe sometimes you may need to sit your ass down and have a moment of celibacy, because I do understand that the power of the P can make you lose your mind. And so a lot of people are based off of principles and shit. But once you can be able to sit down somewhere and know yourself and control certain shit, you know what I'm saying, that you may not feel like you fall weak to, but some of your actions say that sometimes, brother, you're a little bit too tender. You tender to the point where you putting your hands on somebody, and you wouldn't want
Mhm.
nobody to do that to your ass. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying, or your mama, or your daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you can't control your anger. Well, maybe this might be the root of it.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to sit down and have a moment of celibacy. Maybe you need to be able to have a conversation with somebody, and
Mhm.
have a conversation with somebody, whether it's professional or not, that's gonna give you the blood raw truth, and and let you know, bro, you need to work on this, bro. No matter how the message is given, no matter how you give the medicine, long as it's received and you can take that and learn from it, and be a better person. I think that's important for black men. You know what I'm saying? And I think um being honest and truthful with how you feel, to the point where of course you're not finna sit around and tell everybody, what's going on, but being able to have a safe place, whether it's your homeboy or whether it's a your lady friend or your companion, to where you can be honest and they not judge you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of times we say our homeboys, because a lot of men, black men, kind of deal with some of the same problems. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So now you got somebody that can empathize with you, or maybe recognize that and help you with a solution. Because what I'm saying, a lot of the problems that black men deal with, problems that we endure, that we have to find a solution to. But when it comes to building and being with, you know, a woman, you gotta be able to, at some point, be honest, and be honest even when it comes to courting and dating. Be honest and let somebody know who you are, so they can know if they want to deal with you. And also
Right.
be honest with your boundaries, and let
Right.
somebody know what you won't allow. You know what I'm saying? What you stand for. And if this ain't it, then this ain't it. And that's, respectfully, it's cool, it's all love, but this just certain things I'm not finna deal with, especially if you dealt with trauma. Now, people that dealt with past situations and it cause them to harm people or do time. I mean, from that, I think um, you kind of know the consequences. You know what I'm saying? Of or what your actions could be, and it's nothing like freedom. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, you gotta realize what's important and what's not important to sit down somewhere. But ultimately, we need to be able to channel these emotions and be able to have a safe place, whether it's in a journal, or have a crew of respected men or respected people, that you can just be honest with and let them know that shit today ain't okay. Like I'm fucked up today.
And y'all don't
Yeah.
have, and I don't think y'all have a problem with saying that to y'all boys though. Like a lot of guys don't have a problem saying, "Hey, I'm just not. I ain't feeling it today, bro." And then they're gonna be like, well, "What's going on?" and da da da. And either you gonna be honest about what it is, so you can get it off your chest, or you gonna just don't want to talk about it. Um, but y'all definitely, I do think that we do have to open up those safer, make our black men more safer in those communication spaces, regularly, because it's not. And Diallo made a great point on this comment right here, where he said, "My generation's parents didn't know anything about emotional intelligence, so we were starting from scratch. We really are. Our generation is the first generation that's starting to take responsibility for our mental
Actions.
health,
Yeah, mental
our
health. Yeah.
everything, everything.
Yeah.
We're literally the first generation ever to even be able to focus on what has gotten us to this level of be strong, buck up bullshit. Like we are not on that no more. Black women have said we tired. We ain't trying to be the strong people no more. Like we ain't on that. Talking about y'all got to just do this and take this and accept you shit.
Yeah. I agree with you. We are the one generation that is actually recognizing past generational traumas. Where you see how some of your relatives may act, you know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and I'm not just talking about how they may act personality wise. I'm talking about
No.
fundamentally how they
Yep.
act when they get together,
Yep.
and where this come from. When you look at if you got a family full of people that believe in whooping ass, you know what I'm saying? Like, where does that come from? And then decide, like, no, at this point, this is something that I want to take on and make better, or this is like a generational curse. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's a problem, and I want to stop it here. Or for a lot of women, they raised to be tough and be strong and to handle the business and to move accordingly, especially in the corporate society in the corporate world. But letting black men letting their women know, or the women they dealing with, know, if they don't already know, that hey, you can be CEO from 8 to 5. When you come here, this is a place where you can, if you're
Yep.
not comfortable or used to it, you can step back into your femininity. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
And it takes a confident man that has emotional intelligence to not react to everything that's said to him,
That's right.
and to actually be more solution oriented when you're dealing with um, a woman. Because fellas, let's be honest, a woman will do whatever to push your buttons, and a lot of time is to get you
Mhm.
together, and sometimes it's to see if you give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? But how we deal with that, how we process that, and being honest, living right, and calling a spade, like being honest with yourself. If you know that you enjoy women, tell somebody that you enjoy multiple women. Don't be sitting here selling a dream and then moving in the darkness, knowing that you ain't living right. Like, man, like, we in a different time.
It
So
comes a point.
each individual need to be able to set their own rules. And as a man, you got to be honest with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And be able to speak upon that. So that's what I mean about dealing with your emotions, having emotional intelligence, and just trying to do better and be better.
I like that. I like that breakdown of that too, B. And I like that it can go beyond just saying that it's a generational thing. We can break. We don't have to. You can decide if this is going to be a generational thing or if this is going to stop right here, or if I'm am I going to do it differently? Simple as
Yeah,
that. So as we close out the show, I just want to say this. We know what issues the black community struggles with. We have been fighting the same struggle for over centuries now, a century now. Our existence in the Western Hemisphere has been a continuous struggle. However, the solutions seem to be more difficult to identify and apply. We know that emotional intelligence is lacking in our black community, and it's not just amongst our black men. But I'm a firm believer that you heal the black man, you can heal the community. Just like you heal the black woman, you can heal the black man. We are a circle of life type of situation. Um, Many people suggest the need to unify or come together. However, this is more difficult to accomplish than it is just to say. The trauma we continue to endure leaves us stuck and unable to come together with the force needed to make a significant impact. Because sometimes you're going to have people saying, I'm better than the other black people. It's always somebody that's going to feel like they don't have to unify within their culture because they have made it and reached to a certain level and they don't have to do all that. So, with that being said, in order, I want us to get to the point of being able to identify our emotional intelligence and being able to put it on blast, and we're gonna also be able to have an emotional quotient that helps us recognize when we need to either use our emotions or what to do with them when we feel in a certain type of way. Self-awareness, that's one of the main ones. We must be able to recognize and understand our own moods and emotions. We definitely have to be more self-aware. B said earlier, self-preservation is one of the strongest things that are going to, we have to preserve us in order to be able to help anybody else. So that comes along with self awareness, self management. Once we understand ourselves, we must develop the ability to control and or redirect impulses, attitudes, and behaviors. So whenever you're starting to feel erratic, think about something that's going to make you happy. When you're starting to feel like something is about to break you down and have you crying in the middle of a presentation at work and you know you this is not the time for that, think about everybody in the room naked so you can laugh a little bit. It's ways that you have to learn how to channel your emotions. Social awareness, knowing when there's a time to be around an area of attention. Black men must be aware of how other people are reacting and anticipate how they are likely to respond. Instead of just waiting for the outcome, you must already project the outcome. And just because and that social awareness is something that has been put into our brain that we always must be on cue. We always must be focused. And if that's the case, do it. Because for your safety in your life, you need to be self aware. And being able to have good relationship skills. Black men and their emotions have suffered through so many good relationships that they've broken down because they don't know how to deal with themselves in those relationships. So they don't know how to respond to certain situations. Most of our prisons are full of black men who decided at the stroke of a moment that they were going to handle it this way when they could have just walked away. Dealing with our emotions is a big deal. So, as technology brings the world closer, it's vital for black men to be proficient in managing their relationships and building networks. Many other ethnic groups are well far advanced in those areas, and we still struggle. Our black men will pass the phone to their woman and be like, help me do this instead of learning themselves. Get on board. We got to get on board. All right. Thank y'all for always tuning in. Our next session of Black Men and Their Emotions, we're going to have a panel and we're going to be talking about scenarios. And B brought up some good points today with when he addressed either how y'all deal in relationships, the fact that y'all ladies men and y'all need to talk about it. Come prepared in the next week. It's not next week, it'll be the week after that to talk, listen to how black men deal with themselves in certain scenarios that either require emotions, lack of emotions, or whatever. Things that can frustrate them, things that can actually push them to that point. We want to see it in action. Y'all catch us next week and then see us the week after. Thank y'all for always tuning in. Thank you, B, as always, my brother. I will see you soon. Thank you for all that knowledge that you brought to the table today. And y'all have a wonderful evening, my people. Tell them bye, B.
Peace, y'all. Be
Peace,
blessed.
y'all.
6:30 p.m. Eastern. Shelby's World Live taking off. Questions will be answered cause the queen get it off. Unity is for the black and brown community. Conversation without scrutiny. Hey, we speak from a place of power, no coward. We just making sure the truth isn't overpowered. Black goddess, black queen, no in between. Radio podcast to the big screen. Her smile is everything, can light up a room. She say what she means, that's why we're in tune. Grown woman handles her biz like it is. Discipline, a role model for the kids. Nothing was given, everything she earned. She sat back and learned, and now it's her turn. So stop on by, comment, subscribe. Each and every Wednesday, SW Live.